Welcome to part 17 of my video series on workshop techniques. This short video shows how I make a steam turret that steam supply and exhaust lines are connected to on steam plants. This turret is for a small steam test plant that I'm currently working on. The video shows the general method I use. Specific measurements are altered depending on the project I'm working on. I started this project by designing the horizontal part of the steam turret in Fusion 360. The turret is made from 1/2-inch square 360 brass bar. There are separate passages for the steam and exhaust that run down the length of the turret. There are then inlet and outlet ports on the front and back of the turret. These ports are where the steam inlet and exhaust inlet and outlet connect to. Not on the drawing is a vertical post that the turret mounts on. I cut a length of bar to just over 2 3/4 inches and faced the end in the lathe. I then measured the bar and faced the other end until the bar was 2 3/4 inches long. Next, I center drilled the end of the bar stock and zeroed the end of a number 23 drill using a feeler gauge and setting my tailstock quill depth gauge. I then drilled the bar to 1.2 inches deep. I withdrew the drill several times to clear any chips from the drill flutes. This clip shows me tapping the drilled hole to 3/16" 40 threads per inch taper thread. I then repeated the center drilling, and tapping process at the other end of the bar stock. These threads will be used for a blank and a displacement lubricator to screw into later. I blued the faces of the turret and marked off the position of the holes that will become the steam and exhaust ports. Additionally, there's a hole that a locating peg will insert into that on the post. I then used an optical center punch to center punch the position of the ports and peg locating hole. Next, I set the bar up in the milling vise and center drilled with a 9/64" drill to a depth of 0.250 inches, and reamed with a 5/32 reamer. This is the hole for the locating peg. I then center drilled, and tapped the 4 ports on the sides of the turret. 3 holes were drilled number 5 and tapped 1/4 40 threads per inch. These holes are for tube union connectors. One of the holes was drilled with a letter F drill and tapped 5/16 32 threads per inch. This hole is for the steam supply valve. This photo shows the finished turret with all the holes drilled, reamed, or tapped as applicable. Next, I moved on to making the post that will support the turret. This clip shows how I made a post that supports the steam turret. I didn't follow any drawings for the post. I just used my eye to get dimensions proportional. I started by turning a piece of 5/8 inch brass bar stock down to 11/64 inch diameter for a length of 0.200 inches. This forms the peg that locates in the turret. I then turned the bar stock down to 0.475 inches diameter along its length. This created the flange at the turret end of the post. I then used a button head tool to turn the diameter of the post to 0.280 inches diameter and form a curve at each end. The post has a 0.475 inch flange at the turret end and a 0.625 inch flange at the baseboard end. I then parted off the post with a parting tool. I changed the jaws in the 4-jaw self-centering chuck, center drilled with a number 29 drill to a depth of 0.5 inches, and then threaded the hole with an 832 threads per inch thread. This hole will be used to secure the turret to the baseboard. This clip shows me tapping the threads. This photo shows the turret mounted on the post before silver soldering them together. I center punched the flange end of the post so that it stood off the turret by a few thousandths of an inch. This would allow solder to flow between the parts. I then applied flux to the flange and locating peg, took it over to the soldering area, and silver soldered the two parts together. This clip shows me silver soldering the parts. I left the turret to cool to a blackish color and then quenched it in my pickling bath. I left the turret there for a while so that any flux or other impurities dissolved. I cleaned up the turret and installed the various fittings on it. Here's a rundown of the configuration of the turret. First, there's the main steam supply port which connects steam from the boiler to the turret. Next, there's a displacement lubricator which mixes steam oil into the steam. Then, there's the steam supply valve which will regulate the supply of steam to a steam engine. This is the exhaust inlet port which connects exhaust steam from a steam engine to the turret. Finally, there's the exhaust outlet which connects the exhaust steam to the condenser oil trap. This is the turret complete, so I'll leave this video here. So, that's making a steam turret complete. I hope you can use the techniques shown in your model engineering projects. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe to support my channel. Thank you.